down. But
these interviews seem to also change your life. I read your Mary Blige interview, and it was beautiful. And I know that you had interviewed her over time.
Right.
How did that change your life?
Well, I mean, I was around people who are pretty inspiring. Like a lot of the people I interviewed had like really inspiring stories. So I think just like being around them and feeding off that sort of made me think that a lot was possible.
Yes, but also her change and her growth.
Right. I think Mary J. Blige, I mean, to me, she's like a real role model because, she was a mess at one point. I had points in my life when I was a complete mess, and I sort of watched her sort of completely turn her life around.
Something happened to you in New York. You're on your way to P. Diddy party.
Right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I've been living in New York for maybe a year, and I was like, doing a lot of freelance work, and everything was going brilliantly, and I'd been invited to a glamorous party in the Hamptons that P. Diddy was hosting. And I was really excited about it, and I was literally on my way with a friend when I started to feel really ill, and I ended up in ER that afternoon instead of at P. Diddy's party. So I was in hospital in America with no health insurance. After a barrage of tests, I was told that I was extremely ill indeed. I had a kidney tumor and had to have surgery that night.
And let's get this straight. You had cancer of the kidney.
I found afterwards, after they'd performed surgery, they then told me that not only did I have kidney cancer, they thought I'd had it for years.
And something else happened, didn't it? When you would wake up and you would find that you weren't alone.
Yeah, so I was told that I was having surgery that night. I didn't seem to have a choice in the matter. And I spent a week in hospital, and I didn't have family with me, I just had friends. But each time I sort of opened my eyes, I was quite heavily drugged. There was like another family member of mine from my mother's side of the family just sort of saying, I'm your cousin, I'm your aunt. Like people from the family who lived in New York just appeared in the hospital. So that was the first time I really felt connected with my family.
You're planning to move to Ghana. Now this is really interesting because when you were younger and in West Africa, age 6, you're running away from black people, didn't like the culture, and didn't feel comfortable or connected with it. What is making you move to Ghana now?
I mean, a lot has changed, and I think I've always been sort of trying to sort of figure out what my identity is. Although I was born in England, raised in England, I hadn't felt English exactly, and I sort of remember a point at probably age, 11 or 12, where suddenly black people in England, we couldn't call ourselves English, so suddenly we were Black Britons or Afro-Caribbeans, and that sort of made me feel less connected to England. And I think sort of going to America was sort of a search for, where do I fit in? In America, I'm English. As soon as I opened my mouth. But then I had the opportunity to go to visit Ghana and Nigeria through work, actually, through journalism assignments, and I started to feel a real connection. And yeah, so I'm definitely planning not to move there completely, but to live there and over here.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like you returning, not being afraid, and feeling like you belong.
And I think it's sort of quite ironic because, my mother and a lot of her generation, their whole goal was to get their children to be very English and to have this English education. And the idea of their child then saying, I'm going to go to Africa, is just like unbelievable,
Precious, thank you. And thank you so much for giving us this interview today because I feel it will make a real difference to other people.
Thank you very much.
Oh.